This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, tax, professional advice. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host or the management. This podcast may contain adult themes, so parental discretion is advised. Now, today's guest is Dr. Melissa Turner, a Holy Spirit-led rapid transformation coach whose journey from pharmacist to faith-based healing is nothing short of powerful. After personal tragedy reshaped her path, Melissa now helps women break free from self-sabotage and step into peace, purpose, and confidence. She blends neuroscience, spiritual truth, and lived experience to guide women back to who God created them to be. Get ready for a conversation that's both practical and deeply transformational. So welcome, Melissa. Welcome. If you want to expound on what I said about you, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. That was a wonderful introduction, and I'm excited to be here today and to share more about my journey and to hopefully give some inspiration and hope to your listeners.
Right. So you spent over a decade of working as a pharmacist
Uh-huh.
and then you became a transformational coach. What was
Yes.
the moment that you knew that science alone couldn't heal the spirit, and how did faith reshape your
Okay.
your faith? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I graduated pharmacy school in 2013, and my plan was to work in an independent pharmacy. But graduation came and I was looking for a job and I could not find anything anywhere. And at the time, my husband had just accepted a position as the senior pastor for a church that was really close to our home. And we loved the church. We were actually still here almost 15 years later. And so God sent me somewhere else and led me to a national chain drugstore and was there for 8 years. And a lot of things happened there, which I can talk about if we want to. But I got to the point where I hated my job. I hated being a pharmacist and regretted my decision and was like, what in the world have I done? And so God brought different people into my life and I was able to leave. I took a leave of absence in May of 21 and then started my own business a few months later. And when I started, I was doing genetic testing for medications so that people didn't have to try medicine and it not work or could be harmful for them even to take. And then I added genetic testing for nutrition and wellness to, again, personalize the care for the patients. But in June of this year, so 2025, I did a 3-day boot camp. And it was a very powerful experience. And it was the turning point for me in my business. And so on the very last day, so I was helping women look at 3 different lies. I'm unworthy, I'm helpless, and I'm unlovable. And what does God say? What is the truth about those lies? And on the very last day, I helped a woman in less than 10 minutes to discover where the root of her unworthiness came from. And it was a moment when she was in the 4th grade on the playground, and something
Really?
another little girl said to her, yes. And to be able to not only help her identify that, but to walk through that, to show compassion to her younger self, it was a breakthrough for her. And I was like, wow, God, this is what I need to be doing. Because the medicines, sometimes we need them, but I just saw over and over, it was just keeping people in the same place. They weren't getting any better. So why? Why are we not asking why? That really bothered me. And so I was like, what's at the root? How do we help people get to the root cause of where they're at? So that was like an aha moment. And I felt God saying, this is what I want you to do. I want you to help women in a much deeper, more impactful way.
Let's go back to I mean, your doctorate is in pharmacy,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
but that is a lot of studying. That is a lot of work.
Yes.
Explain that to me. How, I mean, you just walked away from that, or were your skills transferable skills?
Yes. So that's something my husband said as well. You went to school. So I had 4 years of undergrad to get
I
my
know.
Bachelor of Science in Biology, then 4 years of pharmacy school. So 8 years altogether. And yes, I think part of that struggle that I had for so long was like, what am I doing? I spent all this time, all these hours studying, and if I'm not a pharmacist, what am I? And so yes, I really struggled with that. And so I know I wish I didn't have to have all those 8 years that I had in retail, because there were a lot of bad times, a lot of tears from things that technicians would say to me, doctors would say to me, patients. But yes, those skills transferred because it showed me how to empathize with my patients and to see what they were going through, to be able to have those communication skills with my patients and to be able to meet them where they're at. So, yeah, it was hard to walk away from that, but there were a lot of things that I've learned in the last few months that really has opened my mind. I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we not asking, why is your blood pressure high? Why do you have depression? Why do you have anxiety? Because if we're just putting pills on it, we're not really fixing the problem. And then
Banded
there's
on a cancer.
interactions and side effects, and then there's more pills, and it just keeps going and going. So
Mhm, mhm. That's interesting. I mean, that, as you said, that must have been, a decision that you couldn't have taken lightly. But,
yes,
but if you didn't like what you're doing, was that the
yeah.
case that you didn't really like what you're doing?
I mean, I definitely did not. There was a lot of uh, it was not what I thought I went to school for. What I was doing in retail, all of the metrics and everything you did was timed, measured, and tracked. And, when you're standing on your feet for 10, 12, 14 hours a
Yes.
day and you don't get to use the bathroom and you don't get to eat, and I could not keep doing
Right,
that.
right,
And
right.
it took just a toll on me physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And once I was able, even within a few weeks after taking my leave of absence, people started to notice the difference. And they're like, oh, you're smiling again. I'm like, yeah, I am. So my joy was able to come back. My walk with the Lord grew during that time. So I'm grateful for those 8 years. They were difficult years, but they taught me a lot and got me to where I am today.
Yeah, yes. I can relate to some parts of what you're saying about being in something that you really don't like. After a while, I thought that you didn't like it when you were going it, but when you're actually in it and you see some of the
Yeah.
things that, as you say, no, this isn't for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand
Yeah.
that. So you shared that your sister's tragic murder was a defining moment. How
Yes.
did that heartbeat become a catalyst for your calling?
Yeah, so that was one of the things that happened during those 8 years in retail. So it was a Friday, November 30th of 2018. I'd gone in early to work, just like I always did, because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And I felt like
Hmm.
if I didn't do it, we would be behind and everything would be timed out and people would be yelling, like, why isn't my prescription ready? So, for years I went in early, stayed late. I didn't get paid for that, but anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. But um, I got the phone call, and my sister, her name was Katie, and she was living with my grandma at the time. And I got the phone call that my uncle had shot and killed her and had also killed her boyfriend as well. And so that changed everything for me because for so long I did put my career, my job first. working every other weekend, working every other holiday, missing out on vacations with my family, those holidays, those birthdays. And you always hear God doesn't promise us tomorrow. Like we know that, but until you've gone through something like that, you don't really understand it. You're like, oh, now I get it. And so, things had been getting bad at my job for a while. And then when that happened, that will always be the place where I got that news. So there's a lot of, trauma there, being in that physical location, but also 5 days later on what should have been her 26th birthday is when we had her funeral. And so a week after she was killed, I was right back at work. I don't recall being asked, do you need more time? Do you want to take time off? Are you sure you're ready to come back to work? Don't worry, don't rush to come back. I didn't get that. And so, I'm just suppressing all of my emotions to serve a company that I didn't feel gave me what I needed. And I just couldn't keep doing it. So
yeah.
I knew I had to get out. I had to have a job. Now that I work for myself, I can set my own schedule. I don't miss out on those things anymore. And I won't put my career and money and having this, fancy job above my family because they are what's most important to me.
Yeah, that is so true. And it must be, I mean, it's like, it's two persons because it was your grandmother
Yeah.
passed at the same time and your sister, right?
So Katie and her boyfriend. So my grandma
Oh,
was,
Katie.
she was
Okay.
in the home at the time when it happened. So she was there for all of that. She actually just passed away earlier this year in February, but she had to live with that for several
Mm-hmm.
years. So it's been almost 7 years since it happened. So she had to live with that too. So it was a lot for us.
Mm-hmm. So for transformational coaching is something that you had to go to school for, or how did that second career
No,
start?
so that is God working again. So God brought this other pharmacist who is a coach as well. Her name is Dr. Christina Fontana, and I've known her for several years, and I've seen the work that she has done. She's been my personal coach for a while now, and she's helped me through a lot of the things that I've gone through, the feelings of unworthiness, in owning my own business, being able to show up authentically as myself so that people really know who Melissa Turner is, being able to, charge for the prices that I think that I deserve. So she has helped me a lot. And then I've used them in my own patients. I've seen the transformation that they have had. And so, through her training, she has helped me. And so now I'm able to help others as well to do this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just if somebody's interested in, which probably I'm gonna get questions on. You're gonna tell us how to get in touch with you. You do training also, or
Yeah, so my coach that I mentioned, she is developing a program because she wants this work, this nervous system healing work, to go to millions, to around the world. And so I will be one of her very first coaches to go through her training program so that we can help others. So I certainly work with, would love to work with other women who have struggled with the same things. So feeling the unworthiness, the guilt, the shame, the perfectionism, the people pleasing, the overthinking. I've struggled with all of those. I'm a
mm-hmm.
recovering people pleaser, and perfectionist. So that's what I help women do. So I combine the nervous system healing with the Christian coaching. So that spiritual piece and the nervous system piece.
Okay. So the person has to be a pharmacist, or
No.
anybody
Mm-mm.
with any skill set can do it, correct?
Yes. Yep. So
Okay.
it doesn't have to be a pharmacist, but yes, I can certainly relate with pharmacists because that has been my experience, but it does not have to be limited to pharmacist.
Okay, so in talking about psychology of change, you
Mhm.
explore the why people get stuck. What's one myth about personal growth that keeps women from moving forward?
Well, I think it's sometimes the unworthiness where we don't think that we deserve to be happy. We don't deserve to be healthy. We don't deserve to ask for what we need. We don't deserve to ask for that pay raise as at work. And so, like with my patient earlier that I mentioned, like she knew she had it, but she didn't really know where it started. And so being able to show that compassion to herself. And afterwards, she sent me a message and she said, I have spent thousands of dollars and have gone through years of therapy, and no one has been able to get to the root of my unworthiness like you did. And so I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's the power of this work that we're doing. And it took less than 10 minutes to be able to do that for her.
Wow. So it, you know, perfectionism, guilt, overthinking, as you were saying, these
Mm-hmm.
patterns run deep.
Oh,
It's
yes.
sometimes it's part of the core of the person, of who the person is.
Yes.
I know that I've been told that I'm an overthinker, but I like to look at all the permutations and combination of things. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know, I know I've been told that I do. I stress out myself with overthinking. So
Yeah.
what's the first step a woman can take to recognize that, she's stuck in self-sabotage and begin to work to break free from it?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's certainly not wrong to, think about your options. But when we get stuck in that cycle where it prevents us from moving forward,
You make a decision.
that's yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's when it's a problem.
Mhm.
So we can certainly, talk out the issue, but do we ever make any progress? And so, that's what's really important. And so, like you said, a lot of these things are so much a part of us, we don't even realize it. Like we've lived with this since our childhood. And so, how can we figure out where this started and how can we break this? How can we release this energy? Because, we've all been through trauma of some kind, whether it was
Right.
losing someone or not getting that job that you really wanted or going through the pandemic. We've all been through
Right.
something. And so, if we have not fully processed, if we have not sat with our emotions or expressed them when we need it to, that energy doesn't go away. It's still there somewhere. And so, helping women to be able to release that so that they can live fully powered and as the woman God has created them to be.
No, some people turn to faith just in a crisis, but
Yeah.
you teach faith as a foundation. Would you like to
Oh,
expound on
yes.
that for me?
Yes. So, faith is definitely the beginning. That's where we have to start. We have to know what our purpose is, what our plan is, what does God want for us as his daughter. And so being able to understand that, and because that's what has brought me healing. I never would have been able to get through my sister's death, or any of the other things that have come up in my life if it were not for my faith, remembering who God says I am. He says that I am worthy. He says I am chosen, I am loved, I am known, I am his masterpiece, and he has created me to do good works, things he's already planned in advance. And so helping women to be able to know that. There's some women that don't know that, don't know about God. And so to be able to help them know that they are loved, they are not forgotten, and that God has great plans for them. And so once you know that, then we can begin that nervous system healing. This body that God has created, it is very intricate and it is beautifully designed. And I want to help you to be able to understand that. How can you bring that healing where there's that hurt?
Rapid transformation. One of the questions that came to mind, how is it really different from the regular traditional therapy and coaching? What's the fundamental difference that separates this from all of that?
So for the rapid transformation, that's being able to help women have those breakthroughs quickly. So not months or years,
Mm-hmm.
like for my patient, but to be able to have that more quickly. And it may not be a 100% change, everything in your life is better. That's not what's going to happen. But can you have that 1% shift that you can then build on? Um, and being able to help women to understand their nervous system and how it's working so that they can experience that more rapid transformation so that it doesn't take years.
Okay, okay. So you say that trauma lives in the body, but healing
Yes.
lives in the spirit. How
Mm-hmm.
do you help women reconcile both truths and find wholeness?
Yeah. So there's that again, I think goes back to our faith foundation,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that God created us in his image. He created everything he created was good, but then sin entered the picture. And so knowing that bad things are going to happen to us, even as followers of Christ. And so being able to have that faith foundation and knowing that people are going to hurt us, people are going to say mean things about us, there are going to be tragedies in this world. And so, that trauma we experience, how are we taught as children to process that? And so if we didn't learn how to do that, if we didn't learn how to communicate, then that's going to stay with us. But that healing comes from God. And in my sessions, I always invite the Holy Spirit into our sessions, praying for my patients before I even meet them, before they even sign up to be a client. I'm praying for them, praying that they will have that healing, that God will intervene, that God will make his presence known to them, praying for them during our time together and even after we're finished, so that that healing can be through the whole body and the spirit as well.
Right. You say that when fear shows up, especially in big life transformation, how do you guide women to lean into faith instead of freeze? Some of us freeze.
Yeah. Yes, that's a nervous system response. So
Yes.
you have, everybody's probably familiar with that fight or flight state, that
Right, right.
sympathetic state. So
Hmm.
we're either, facing our problems or we're running away from them. But if you have so much trauma or you don't have the tools, that's something else I teach you, those tools to process. If you don't know how to do all that, then your body can go in that freeze where you don't do anything, or that collapse, that shutdown where you're not able to move, to talk, to make any sort of progress. So being able to help women to understand those different states and to be able to process and work through them.
Okay. Now, I think this is our last question.
Okay.
When when one woman heals, it impacts generations,
Yes.
right? What legacy do you hope your work
Hmm.
creates in families, communities, and the kingdom?
Oh wow, that's a great question. So yeah, a lot of the traumas and the patterns that we pick up are from our parents, from our family members. And so when we go through this nervous system healing, these transformations in our body and in our spirit, we get the opportunity to break those cycles, to break those curses that have been
Right.
carried for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have seen this. So my husband and I, we don't have any children, but we do have a nephew, and his name is Parker. And so often, oh gosh, I'm gonna start crying to think
Mm-hmm.
about the legacy that I'm gonna leave for him. That there are bad things that are gonna happen in this world, Parker.
Yep.
There are evil people, that's sin, but we don't have to let that overcome us.
Mm-hmm.
We can sit in our grief, we can sit in our pain, but at some point we have to get up and we have
Mm-hmm.
to move and we have to ask for help. And when you're able to do that, it ripples into your community, into your homes. And I've seen this just in the past few weeks with my women's Bible study. So I started this with another woman in January of 2022. And so this is the first, so we do like semesters like fall and winter. We don't meet in the summer. So this is like the first semester. We started September, where, usually when you start something new, like, oh, there's a bunch of people, everybody shows up, right? You have a great turnout. But then as the weeks go on, what happens?
Yeah, yeah.
There's less and less. That
Mhm.
has not happened this year. And of course, I know that God is in this, but there's something different about these women this year. Every week we have 15 to 20 or more. We're about to outgrow our second room. Yes, God is working, but I also know that it's part of it is because I'm showing up differently. I'm showing up more authentically as the woman God has created me to be, because I've let go of the guilt, the things, the shame that I've carried from my past. There were things that happened to me as a child that I never told anyone about, but I released that this summer and said, I'm not carrying that anymore. What he did to me is not who I am. And I'm going to let that go. And I'm going to talk to my younger self and tell her that she is loved and she is important. And what happened to her, it was not her fault. So I know that I'm showing up differently. And I can see that because the women are saying, this feels so much different this year. Something is different. Thank you for sharing your stories. I feel like I can be more open with these women. And that's God working all of this out. I'm able to show up better. And now that's impacting the women of my Bible study. And I know it's impacting others. And I may not even know who all it impacts,
There you
but I'm
go.
not
You
going to
don't
stop
know.
doing it. Yeah. So why would I not tell other women about the goodness of God and the healing that is available and the transformations that can happen? And it doesn't have to take years. You've been living in these cycles for years or decades too, just like I did. And it can change just like that if you say yes. So that's what I'm seeing right now, and I can only imagine what God has, for what's going to happen next.
I think people when you show up as your authentic self, people just love that.
Yeah.
Because there's
People can
no
connect and relate to that. And they're
yes,
like,
yes.
oh, I'm not alone. Okay. There's
Right,
someone
right.
else.
And
Yeah.
somebody else, going through the same thing and they're talking about it and they've been through it and they're healing and, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel as opposed
Yeah.
to, yeah, so that's good. That's good work.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah.
work. So we come to the end of our podcast. We could go on and talk and talk.
Yeah.
But listen, we thank you for sharing your heart, your wisdom, and your
Yeah.
story. Your work reminds us that healing isn't, healing, it's possible and it's sacred.
Yes. Yeah.
For every woman listening who felt stuck, overwhelmed, or disconnected, may this episode be a gentle nudge back to truth, safety, and divine purpose. Until
Mm.
next time, oh, how can we get in touch with you?
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. So you can visit turnaroundwellness.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I have a YouTube channel, and I also created a 5-minute audio recording for your listeners. It's called the Pause Reset, or I'm sorry, the
Okay.
Peace Reset. There are some pauses in it. So it's just an audio recording that anyone can listen to, and it's scripture based, and it's just a moment to find that peace in your day. So when your mind is racing with those overthinking thoughts that never turn off, or you're feeling unworthy, you feel unloved, you feel like, I don't know how I'm going to make it through this day,
Right.
Take 5 minutes and listen to this. So it's free. I'll share the link with you so that you can share it with your listeners.
Okay, so I can put it in Spotify. It's a link that
Yes.
I can put
Yep.
in Spotify as a gift,
Yep.
right? Okay.
That would
All
be great.
right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you.